you very much for the presentation. The paper I'm going to talk about is more about us as academic. It's not about industry. I'm not solving anything to the industry. I'm solving things for academic and especially young researchers like me. So the agenda of the paper I will talk about the idea, the problem, the aim, and then very, very quick brief what's ontology and what's linked data, and then I will talk about the developed ontology and the developed linked data, and finally conclusion for further researchers. So the idea came, I had a knee operation in November, so I had to stay at home for 2 weeks. And during staying at home 2 weeks, I couldn't work on my PhD, I was in pain, so I started watching TV. But I just have the free view TV in UK, so it's really not my cup of tea. So I started looking at linked data for a new job because I was just already finishing my PhD and that. And during I was looking at linked data, I found a very interesting statement from Bill East. He's father of Kobe, if we can say that. So he said we need to establish common frameworks for BIM researchers so the students don't waste their time. And it came from because he has a lot of requests coming from young researchers asking him to do the questionnaire or the interview for the research. And from his point of view, most of this research was already done, and the researchers are just repeating what's already there. In meanwhile, I started looking at my literature review that I wrote in the first year, and unfortunately, I found that I would say 50% of the literature is not relevant now. So it was very broad in the beginning during my first year, and it's now. So from this, I came with the problem. The problem is there is a lot of papers talking about BIM. On Web of Science, there's 1,836 papers, includes BIM or building information modeling or building information management. And this is journal only. I'm not talking about conferences, I'm not talking about master's theses, I'm not talking about anything. And from the Q1 journals, I found this 380, I believe, papers talking about this, and you can see how it's increasing with years. However, it's very hard to establish what part of the BIM is already done, is already covered, and what's not covered yet, because there's a lot of papers, and this leads to, especially for master students, and if you know, there's a lot of BIM master courses now, especially in UK. The master students, they do have 4 months to write their thesis. So they just speed up and do very general literature review, and then rush to formulation of their objectives and methods. And after they finish their work, they find someone already did this work before. So from here, it came the idea. So what's the idea? The idea to have a structured database for the different articles of BIM. Not like Web of Science, not based on the year, not based on the keywords, based on what inside these articles really, and which part of BIM it's covering. So we started looking at the different aspects which we can, I started looking because it's only me in this paper, so different aspects which we can code the different articles of BIM. So we found there is the triaxial framework, Bilal Soccer, there is the project phase based on which phase is BIM engaged, design, construction, the project type, is it residential, is it infrastructure, is it whatever. They use the dimension, 3D, 4D, 5D, you know this. Technologies, what other technologies is engaged with BIM, and applications. And then, because all of these different aspects we thought in an SQL way, it will not work. We have to think more in advance. So we started looking at ontologies and linked data. Just go through this very quickly if you're not very familiar what's ontology. The word ontology, because I'm coming from a department where they they are coming from social science, so the word ontology for them is philosophically, but it's actually ontology for us is applied science ontology, and the small definition of it is abstract representing of a domain, contains object, concept, relationships, provides synthetic and semantic reinformation, and the structure of it is classes, individuals, the taxonomy, attributes, and relationship between these different things. So what's linked data? Well, linked data is a step further using the ontologies. Linked data came from Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of www, the web. And then he came with semantic web, which is instead of web of documents, web of data. And then he came in 2006 and talked about linked data. And he said, okay, in the semantic web, each domain is very well mapped by itself. However, the other domains are not connected to it. So we have to link this domain by the other domain. And it's widely used in everything. And I'll just give you a very small example to understand my point. So that's me. I have a Facebook friend. My friend has another Facebook friend. The third one has a Facebook friend. And while we are sitting, me and you, in the same room now, and open our Facebook, which is Google Maps saw this, it will appear people you may know. So it's two different domains, Google Maps and Facebook. However, there is the third relationship which can find it. And that's how linked data can work. So go back to our research. So I started developing the ontologies. So for example, for BIM dimensions, I started developing the different instance, 3D, 4D, 5D, and so on. For the project stage, the different stages based on REPA. For BIM users, I use the triaxial and the different concepts of it, the BIM use, and so on. So we build the different ontologies to each other. However, let's link these ontologies. So the next step, I chose one of the papers, and I started mapping all the different properties from the different ontologies to this paper. So for example, this paper is in the project phase, in the design. It's talking about asset management, the challenges in interoperability, and also I added other properties which are already there in, for example, in Web of Science, like the year, the keywords, and so on. Okay, so how would we do that? How researchers would do that? It's very easy and simple. We select the database where we want to take the information from, access the data source, for example, like Web of Science, and then start creating the ontology based on this, map the different ontologies we talked about for the papers, and then you will find data mining, which would be very easy to do, and you will have very systematic reviews, metadata analysis, and novel links. And it's not the only idea, because I implemented this idea in the last 4 years with the University of Manchester. So we are doing at work with University of Manchester and Health and Safety Executive and Thomas Ashton Institute, and we started looking at the literature review for BIM and health and safety. So we wanted to categorize or classify the literature review. So for example, in this stage, in this I can show you that the knowledge base system, which is the tool for what? It's for knowledge base system. And you can see there the design stage. So these two papers are talking about knowledge-based system in the design stage. And it's bigger and bigger and bigger. Just give an example for a small thing. Other thing, for example, we found novel links. We related the different technologies to what the tool for. So for example, the automatic rule checking is using a lot of rule algorithm, which is common sense. I mean, that's very logic. However, there is other aspects we can find and classify the papers based on this. Conclusion, there's a huge amount of BIM papers published in academic journals, books, and conference. However, also there is a huge ones which are not published, like the master's thesis. This article needs to be well structured, Ontology and linked data can help us to do this, and there are three main benefits we can get from this. Novel discovery, systematic review, and metadata analysis and sharing. By the way, this idea can be adopted in any different research. It's not about BIM, it's about how to organize any articles or library of them. Thank you very much for your attention.